Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome to another vocal hangout. I went to say vocal analysis again. I've been recording a lot of vocal analyses videos, as you can tell. It is so good to be hanging out with you. Monday, what's the date? The 28th of August. Oh, I'm robbing us of a month. The 28th of August. It is Monday here where I am. In your part of the world, it may still be Sunday. Regardless, I hope you're happy and healthy and in good voice. I wanted to kick off today by saying a very special hello to everyone who listens to this show as a replay. And that, as I've said many times, is the vast majority of you. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you. I'm very conscious and cognizant of the fact that you are joining us, even if not live. You are joining us to have a listen back to what today will be a Q&A, and we're going to answer people's questions as we go along. And so hello, and thank you for tuning in. I read a wonderful quote today. I'm gonna have to paraphrase it because I can't remember exactly how it went, but it was talking about radio and that the true star of radio is the listener. In fact, I think I might have just quoted it correctly. And that is very much the case here in Voice Essentials and on YouTube. The true star of the show is the viewer, the listener, you. And it is so important to me that you tune in every week, that you ask really intelligent, intuitive questions. And as you know, I do my simple best to answer those. And when I don't know the answer, I let you know, and it usually sends me to my books to find out the answer. And so that's what we do. Can I tell you, just on a personal note, I had the most productive weekend I've had for so long. Do you know, I mowed my lawns, I washed my car, we went to the markets. Gee, it was just one of those, one of those weekends where you're really productive and you get to the end of it and you feel really good about that. I feel sore. my shoulder from not polishing as such, but detailing my car is sore, but I feel good, and I hope your weekend is ending up the same. Next week we'll do a mini topic, just so that you know what's coming up. We'll do another mini topic. We haven't had any special guests this term, and I explained last week the reason for that is because the special guests that I had lined up, all unbeknownst to each other, for different very, very good reasons, had to postpone coming on. And in fact, they've all postponed into next term, sort of October, November. So we still have live guests on the show, and they are fantastic. And next term is not going to be any different to that. I just want to keep you in the loop as to why we haven't had any special guests recently. It's just the way it's worked out, and that's okay. Let's get into some Q&A today, and we've already had some questions asked. Actually, let me prep up myself. Oh dear, I hit the right buttons. I'll play this and then I'll explain where our first question comes from. Okay, so our first question was asked really early, and this is how we do things at Voice Essentials. We on the live show, we go through your questions chronologically. So this question came in so early that YouTube hasn't registered it in the live chat. And it was asked by Send It FFH. I don't know what FFH stands for, but that doesn't matter. And it's a really interesting question, and I've got to read it over here on the document that I am reading from the correct page, Linda. I promise. A few weeks back, I thought there weren't any live questions coming in. There were plenty. It's just that I was looking at the wrong page. Like, duh, Daniel. So this is Sendit's question. I am very new to singing, and I watch most of your videos to help me. My question is, how do I carry... Well, I'm glad you're getting something out of the videos, Sendit. My question is, how do I carry my voice in country music? Well, it's interesting. Country music, and there are varying levels of this, but country music really lends itself to the employment, the use of twang. In really like country and western music, sort of that dank, Tammy Wynette, D-I-V-R-R-C, left my man today, is very nasalized twang. Twang does not need to be nasalized. It can be driven through the mouth. And so twang, though, that really clear, focused resonance of twang is going to be, you know, very in keeping with many forms of country music. Country music is a big genre, sort of its own big sub-genre that it then has many sub-genres underneath. And so it's a matter of you identifying just to what level the twang is going to be used. And your question's more in relationship to how do I carry my voice? Well, the great thing about twang is a resonance tweaking, a focusing of resonance somewhere between, let's get really technical, somewhere between 2.8 to 3.2 kilohertz. And that focal point carries the voice and drives the voice and makes it cut through, whether it be live music, backing tracks, and that can be certainly really helpful. Twang is not only used in country, we use twang in pop, rock, music theatre, indie folk. It really, most contemporary genres are going to benefit from the frequency enhancement, the resonance of twang. And so I hope that is helpful to you. Send it. I'm going to come down here. I want to answer Mr. Fomiati's question in part because Mr. Fomiati is a student, a past student. He's not currently having lessons with me currently, but Mr. Fomiati, you tune in every week, and it's always a pleasure to see you here. And I look forward to the day when you come back into the studio for private lessons. How do I practice to hit the low notes? This is a great question, and what I love about it is it gives me an opportunity to talk about this fascination that we often have with high notes. And we talk about in the way we workshop high notes is learning to back off the air pressure. Your body's natural tendency, the higher it climbs, is to drive air pressure through the larynx. Unfortunately, what that tends to do is cause the larynx to valve up, to close up and try and restrict, and creates all sort of constriction and tension. And so learning to sing high requires a really even breath flow that is managed, you know, backing the pressure off. The really interesting thing about singing low notes is we kind of have to approach it in a not dissimilar way, because approaching low notes, we've got to learn to keep that really even flow of air pressure, but it's quite reduced. And so I've actually got a couple of videos on singing low notes on the YouTube channel, Mr. Fomiati, and I would encourage you to go and have a watch of those, where we talk about, you know, establishing that right level of pressure and workshopping the voice down. And can I encourage everyone who's listening, workshop your whole voice. I am a great believer in focusing in on specific registers, for periods of time, but we've got to connect it all. We've got to keep the voice as one, that we can move across the vocal range through the registers smoothly, freely, and that's what I'd be encouraging you to do, Mr. Fomiati. So when you do spend time working on that low register, let the voice, spend some time then, bring the voice back up out of that space so you don't sort of bog it down at a muscular level. Because what we don't want to do is find ourselves, even as I go to do it, I want to almost choke up. We don't want to impose the larynx. So just be mindful of that in your activity. Here's a question from Sharon. It's good to see you tuning in, Sharon. Let me throw up your question on screen. Hello, Dr. Dan. Hello, Sharon. I've been enjoying your reaction and analysis videos. Thanks so much. Can you please do one on George Michael? Ooh, what? I'm writing it down, Sharon. I'm writing it down. Do you know why? Because I love George Michael. What a sad day it was when he passed. What an amazing singer. Like, amazing singer. His range and tonality was incredible. Sharon, I agree. He was amazing. You raising the discussion of the reaction analysis videos, it continues to be a wild ride, people. Seriously, it really does. Can I ask a big favor of you as my community? You know, the people who tune into this live show, you are a part of the community, and you know the live show, the algorithm doesn't really send it out to people far and wide typically, because live shows are more dedicated to those of us who are really regularly, you know, that not only are you subscribed, but you're regularly a part of watching my videos, engaging with the Voice Essentials community, you know, beyond just myself. And so can I throw a request out to you all? Please, you know, if you're enjoying the analyses videos, and you have something positive to say in response to what I've said or the comments that I've made, can I encourage you to leave those positive comments there? I'm not going to tell you what to say. I do want, you know, there to be authenticity and real discussion go on and comments go on the videos. But what tends to happen with the analyses videos is when I'm making comment to a singer, a lot of these singers are high-level celebrity singers, really well known, and they have fan groups, which I'm very cognizant of. What I'm about to talk about is the reason why I hesitated to do them for so long. But the challenge is often when I'm making my commentary, as a singing voice specialist of 30 years teaching experience, I do see and hear these voices through a very, very particular lens. And I'm making commentary, and I'm thinking, recently I did one on Whitney Houston. And at no point do I ever suggest she's anything other than amazing. However, she was human. She was human with some really, you know, she made some life choices that were, you know, well, they resulted, it's hard to say whether they resulted or they were a part of her, let's just at this point say they were part of her vocal demise. And this is well documented. I'm actually not putting anything out new out into the ether. But people, when they come along to these analysis videos, many of the fans of these singers are ultimately looking for a bias confirmation. They're looking for someone to say, yes, this person is amazing, they're wonderful singers, and as a result, I, as a singing teacher, am going to come along and reaffirm that thought, that view of said singer. So when I make commentary that highlights or identifies things that that singer, that human being, let's not forget, these people are all not robots, they're biological instruments. When I identify things that they may have benefited from changing or developing, or then it doesn't resonate with the confirmation bias that fan is searching for. As a result, some of them can leave very, let's just say, trying to be diplomatic, very interesting comments on the videos. And some of them are quite aggressive. What would bring balance to the force would be if, and some of you are already doing this, and for that I'm very, very, very grateful and thankful. What would bring balance to the force is if we are able to identify the positives of what has been said, and just, just so that when people are reading through the comments thread, that the comments thread hasn't been hijacked into a negative review of the video. That would be super helpful. As you know, these videos just don't make themselves. There's a lot of time, a lot of effort that goes into making them, and I've had a couple of videos that have been hijacked, and that's a thing on YouTube. And there's been a couple that I've had to take down, not because I suddenly thought what I'd said in the video was wrong, just simply because the commentary had just devolved into almost trolling. What would be helpful is if we bring balance to that as a community. I would find that I'd be really grateful to you if you could do that. So Sharon, I have added George. I've written George Michael down. I'll put him into the list because I think he would be a really fascinating person to review. Can I tell you a quick little connection that I have to George Michael personally? This goes back it'd have to be about 10 years ago. And this literally is no word of lie. This happened. I got an email about 10 years ago, and this was at a time when there was an email circulating amongst singing teachers, and I'd already got a couple of these, where there's an international person emails you and says, I'd like to do lessons. In fact, I'd like to do 10. If you can send me your bank details, I'll deposit the money, blah, blah, blah. That was a scam. So when I got an email through that read in such a similar way, the slight change was, I want to pay for some singing lessons for my niece who lives in Australia. I currently live in the UK. Please give me your bank details. I want to deposit money into your account so that she can start. I literally thought that was a scam. And in fact, I think this was back in the day when, we all thought it was cool to respond to the scammers and say, forget it, Jack. And I think I responded with something along the lines of, forget it, Jack. I know this is a scam. Don't bother emailing me again. To which I immediately got another email going, is this how you respond to all of your inquiries? And I went, only those. And I responded again going, only those that are scams. And he said, he responded going, this is not a scam. I'm a real person wanting to have my real niece. And I said, so I emailed him back and said, well, if you're not a scam, you can find my phone number details on my website. Give me a call. 5 minutes later, I got a call, and it was George Michael's partner. I think at the time they were separated, and this was only about 2 years before, might have been 18 months before George Michael passed away. And I, no word of a lie, he actually came. He flew over to Australia during the process. I gave his niece 10 lessons in the end, and he sat in the chair sitting over it there, and during a couple of his niece's singing lessons that he'd paid for. Yeah, so there's my little, I forget his name offhand now, but he sent me before I met him personally in person here in the studio, he sent me a photo and said, "This is who I am. I'm a real person." Oh dear. So that was a funny occurrence, and so that's my connection to George Michael. Of course, George Michael never knew who I was, and I never met George, but I certainly met his partner through a very, very funny process. Oh dear, there you go. Liam, let me come over here to Mackenzie Kate's question. Mackenzie, were you in last week's chat? I didn't see you. I hope you're well. My question is, how should I warm up for an audition? Oh, good question, Mackenzie. I have an audition tomorrow night. Good luck. I'm singing a Lea Michele song. Oh, great. The reason, for those of you who are watching who may not know who Lea Michele is, she was the Glee singer, and I actually did an analysis of a Lea Michele video, and I did it because Mackenzie asked for it, and which is why I'm going to do a George Michael one for Sharon. Mackenzie, a big thing about auditioning, doing an audition and preparing your voice is so many people, and this is driven by nerves, so many people find themselves over singing on the day of the audition. If you are having to, run your song over and over and over again, or songs, it should be songs, over and over and over again on the day of an audition, then that you're not well prepared. And no number of singing over and over and over of the songs on the day of the audition is going to have you any better prepared. But can I say to you that a good way to warm up is a number of hours prior, is to go through, because an audition's only going to be 5-10 minutes of length. So do a 10-minute vocal warm-up, and you know that there is a vocal warm-up on the channel here. Do a 10-minute warm-up, and then run your repertoire once through, and then leave it. And then when you, get to the venue to do your actual audition, by all means, tone the voice. Do it with some SOVTs, some straw phonations, some humming. Humming is an SOVT, so straw phonation. But just have the voice ready to go. But you don't want to hit the audition vocally tired. That's the key. And so just be mindful of that. This question, Mackenzie, actually ties in with a question left from Kelly back on the 12th of June. Kelly, the 12th of June, it's taken me this long to get to your question from back then. And Kelly's asked, what's your favorite way to eat on performance day? And so the reason I want to mention that is because what you eat and what you drink on audition day, performance day, is also really important. That you don't overeat, that you don't eat foods that will lead to high levels of reflux. You certainly want to avoid any alcohol. And I find, and this is more to Kelly's question, I find I don't eat a main meal before a night gig. I'll always leave my main meal eating until after I've sung. I don't like singing on a full stomach. Your stomach actually expands and contracts dependent on how much, food and fluid it's having to hold. So after a main meal, and your stomach's sort of sitting just here, I don't know if you can see that, it's going to expand quite largely after a main meal. Well, your diaphragm has to press down on that. The larger your stomach is, the harder it is for it to be displaced. And so I find, personally, and we are all different, but I think as a general rule, you can look for this in yourself. I find that having a big full stomach with lots of food content in it really restricts my breath management. When our breath management is restricted, we're going to find ourselves driving the voice from the larynx far more so, and it's just going to lead to more fatigue, more wear and tear. If that food that you have eaten has led to some reflux, then it could certainly, restrict your range. It could have an impact on your pitch accuracy. So there's quite a few things to assess and be mindful of, but all of these things you've really got to learn how to individualize these things. I, over the years, have sung with many singers where, for all accounts and purposes, these things didn't seem to apply to them. In so much, they'd really help themselves to the green room food before going on, and they seemed to be fine. I've learnt about my own body. That's not me. I always had to forego. And sometimes when I was doing corporate work, and you're at a really fancy corporate dinner, often the green room is catered to, and sometimes it's catered to with the same food that's being delivered out in the room, the main, to the main guests. And sometimes that food was really good, and I would just have to forego. And occasionally, the staff would be kind enough to keep a meal heated and ready for when I'd had finished my work, came back into the green room, and there'd be a hot meal, a yummy hot meal. But that was not the common occurrence, it must be said. So it really comes down to you learning how your body behaves, what is going to be optimal for you and for your voice. But certainly keep an eye on those things. Back to you, Mackenzie. Can I also remind you to remain really well hydrated? Unfortunately, if you decide on the day of an audition, I'm just going to drink lots and lots of water, more than I normally would, well, you might get a little bit of benefit from that. But remember, hydration, systemic hydration, is built up over time, not over. And when I say time, I don't mean by, the day of. It's got to be for months. You've got to get that sense in which your body can retain that hydration level, build that up over time. So hopefully all of that, Mackenzie, is helpful to you. Let's come to this. This is an interesting question from Jacqueline. Jacqueline is asking, any tricks for mastering solfege? Jacqueline, can I be honest with you and say I don't have any tricks because I've never mastered solfege. Solfege, everyone, is very simply put, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. And many of you would remember it from Sound of Music, but it is actually a method by which we can do ear training and oral training, and it really has its place. It's something that I did learn at university, but have not gone on to maintain the skills that I'd learnt, to the point where I would say any skills that I had learnt are lost, because it's just not an area I've felt a need to hold on to, because I haven't needed it in what I do. So I'm being careful here to not downplay its benefits, because there are, you know, particularly for my colleagues who went into teaching music at a primary school level, at a high school level, they continue to use solfege in the classroom, and that really has a benefit in helping develop, particularly instrumentalists. It has a place in developing ears and accuracy of pitch and intervals and all of those things. So I certainly don't want to downplay the benefit of solfege, but it's just not something that I use at all. Jacqueline, I hope you don't think less of me as a result of that, but it's just one of those things. You can't do it all, right? I wonder, I'm sure there would be some really great YouTube channels who are right into solfege, and you might want to check that out here on YouTube. Steve Rebelli in the chat has said that George Michael's BF was Fad. Yeah, that is the name. Yes, and you know, this was even before the day where selfies were a thing. Like, had I had him in the studio, you know, last week, I almost certainly would have got a selfie to prove my story. But you didn't do, I mean, you know, back then you would have been holding up an SLR, DSLR to take a selfie. So we didn't do it back then, but I promise you it's a real, very true story, and made it even more funny by the fact that it nearly didn't happen, simply because I responded to him telling him to take a hike, and, you know, told him it was an email scammer. Yeah, one of those really weird things. Okay, coming down here, I want to just let's come back to here. Just coming down to Ty's question. This is also back from the 12th of June. We have got this long list of really old questions that we just haven't got to, so I'm finally getting to it. Ty, hopefully you tune in and get to hear me answer your question. Back on the 12th of June, he says, "Hey, Dr. Dan, how are you?" Well, today I'm great. The 12th of June, I may not have been great, because I think I might have been sick. Anyway, my question is, I'm very insecure about my voice, and I feel I would sound so much better if I could put more confidence into my singing. How can I build that? Yeah, what a great question. Building confidence in any skill is driven by a number of factors, and I think for many of us, this is one of the reasons why many of us tune in to Voice Essentials and engage in the community, is because I say to often a question that will get asked when students join up for private lessons, they say, "And what can I hope to gain with you? You know, what can I hope to experience by having singing lessons?" And for many years, a part of my response has been first and foremost to say, over 12 months, you're going to develop a lot of skills, we'll do a lot of exercises, and it will develop a range of skills for you. But the key thing that you will develop over 12 months of singing lessons is confidence. Because as you learn how to do what to do and why you're doing it, it establishes a sense of self-assurance. I'm no longer stepping onto a stage, opening my mouth and hoping for the best. I now know why I'm doing it. I know why I'm choosing to do certain things with my voice. And with that comes confidence. And so to get to that confidence, Ty, you need to really workshop your skill base. And in working that skill base, you are going to get to know your voice. What are the parameters currently of your voice? And where are the outlying boundaries? The only way you can do that is to fully explore and experience your voice. The way you get to know someone is by spending time with them. So many singers will make the comment, I don't know what my voice is. I want to know my voice, but I don't know. Well, spend time with it, and spend time really getting to the nitty gritty. If I spend time with someone I've never met before, and I might meet them at a social gathering, and we have a superficial conversation, I might get to know the person's name. I might learn what they do for work. I might even get to know who their partner is, if they have a partner or if they've got kids. But I won't walk away from that very shallow, very superficial interaction with a great depth of knowledge. And that's a bit like a singer who just has a sing through a song, and you might get to know the melody, you might get to know the lyric, but that doesn't mean you really know how your voice sings that song. The only way I can get to know that person at a social interaction is to be far more intentional in saying, hey, it was really nice to meet you today. I'm having my own, gathering in the next couple of weeks. Why don't you come over and, we'll share a beer and get to know each other a bit better. And so through a process of time, you get to know someone, and we all do this, don't we? We all have these social interactions. The same process takes place with your voice, where you go from just singing through a song to actually going, I wonder what my voice does if I sing a scale. I wonder how my breath behaves when I have to do a breath management activity. And you not only then get to experience the voice as it is, but you also get to interact with your voice and determine, well, how far can I take this relationship with my voice? And so that's a good thing to think about when it comes to developing confidence around your voice. And then when it comes to then developing confidence around performance, we develop that by virtue of doing it. You've got to actually step onto stage and develop the confidence. There are some things that we can do in a studio setting to kind of emulate a performance. And one of those can be to visually record onto a smartphone or whatever, or even do a live stream of a performance, so that you're in a safe room environment where there's no live audience, but there kind of is a live audience via stream. But even that, there's another step up when we step onto a stage in front of a live human beings and sing. And the first time you do that, your confidence is likely to be rather low, but the next time you do it, it can take a step up, and we just build confidence like a muscle, and you build over time, and the slightly, the larger the audience, the heavier the weight. It's building muscle. And my PT, my personal trainer this morning, I rocked up. I know Raj won't be watching this. I rocked up this morning and Raj says, "Hey, how was your weekend?" Great. He says, how's your body? Which he asks before. It's like me when I see a student for a lesson, I'll say, how's the voice? And they'll tell me. So Raj will always say, "How's the body?" And I go, "Well, I'm actually feeling pretty good, but I must admit I've got quite a sore shoulder because I was detailing my car, and so a lot of wax on, wax off, right?" He then proceeds to up right across the board all of my weights, and so physically I'm a bit spent today, in a good way. I feel good about it, but man, and that's what we do with our performance and our confidence, is we do expose ourselves to ever greater levels of performance, and even going from doing amateur singing to being paid to do singing. That can be a big step up, because now there's something that comes with that money that's being required or given to you. And so as a result, there's this transaction. Well, I better, step up and be in keeping with that. So that's how we build confidence. You're going to take your hits along the way. You will. I don't know another professional singer who can't tell you a whole range of stories about when things didn't go to plan. And, what could be, and some of them are quite negative experiences, but that's a part of it. That is just a part of it. And so building that confidence, you do it over time, and you build strength over time. I'm looking down at the time. I'm going to answer one more question, and it is in fact going to be from Torment TV. And this is me getting rid of the questions from the 12th of June. So that'll bring us up to the August the 14th for next time we hang out, and we need to look back at historical questions. Torment TV has said, my voice, they're making a statement here. My voice sits between baritone and tenor. So that would almost class you as a baritone, I think would be the sort of the term that we'd use these days. Sits between baritone and tenor, and I've been looking for teachers, YouTube videos, because I'm poor. Well, that's one of the reasons why I do all of my videos, because it gives you access to quality information. I like listening to you. Thank you. Are there any others you'd recommend in that range that are good? Can I recommend you check out New York Vocal Coaching? I think they've got a channel, and that's going to be a really good channel that is really trustworthy when it comes to the information. Can I recommend? I haven't seen Karen in our comments today, but Karen from SingWise puts out some really positive information. I was saying to someone just last week, we were talking about building a channel and what have you. Don't be fooled any longer by subscriber count. Subscriber count, it's certainly one metric, but it's only one metric. The social proof of a what are we calling it? Of a subscriber count simply tells you that they've had videos, or a type of video. One type of video that does gangbusters now is reaction videos. But there are plenty of really high quality content YouTube channels that have like significantly less subscribers, say, than I do. So I'm climbing up towards 230,000 subscribers, but that doesn't necessarily make my information any better than a channel that has 5,000 subscribers. It doesn't make my information any worse than a channel that has 1 million plus subscribers. This is one of the challenges of the online environment is how do we judge the quality of content? It can be quite challenging. So look to the source. What are the qualifications of the person giving the information? Are the qualifications purely experiential? That is, have they just simply been a professional singer themselves? Or do they have academic qualifications? In my case, I'm very pleased to say I've got both. But, look to those aspects. What engagement have they with other, quality persons? In my case, I get a lot of special guests onto the show who bring their expertise. No one person can know everything. The age of the guru, I don't know that it's behind us yet, but I'm hoping that it's dying. It's dying a slow death, but it's dying a death nonetheless. We're starting to recognize that gurus, that era is behind us, certainly in the area of singing teaching. And that it takes a village to raise a singer. And so, that's why I point you towards New York vocal coaching with Justin Stoney, Karen from SingWise. There are a number of other, high quality content creators that you might, that I'm sure as you search and have a look at those other two, the algorithm will start to serve you other channels probably that are going to be in keeping with what you're wanting. Well, there you go, folks. Another live hangout. I'm pleased to say my voice has got to the end of that and felt pretty good. As you know, I was a few weeks back was sick and took my voice a little while to recover after that one. But we've got to the end of today, and I've got my note here to put George Michael into my list for vocal analyses, and I very much look forward to listen. I do think he's amazing. I hope you all have a great week, and I hope you stay safe and stay well. In the Northern Hemisphere, you're heading into the cooler months, aren't you? Here in Brisbane, we're just starting to, I've had the air conditioning on all day because it's just starting to get a little bit warmer. Very much looking forward to seeing you again next week. Next week, all things being equal, we'll do a mini topic. I don't know what that will be yet, but we'll get there. And I'm sure it will be, well, that's pretentious. I hope it will be interesting to you. Remember to subscribe, hit the white bell icon. That way you'll get notifications for when we do go live, which is 1 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, because I'm in Brisbane, Australia. I very much look forward to seeing you again next week. I'm Dr. Dan. Sing well.